I wasn't at Club Czar by accident. Nothing in my life had been by chance for 3 years. The place smelled of expensive vodka and cheap ambition. Blue neon light bathed faces that preferred shadows, and the sound of conversations in Russian echoed off walls lined with dark red velvet. I wiped glasses behind the polished mahogany bar, automatic movements that my mind didn't even need to supervise anymore. 3 months serving drinks to men who spoke in codes and women who laughed too loudly. 3 months building a persona. Sophia, the pretty bartender who didn't ask questions. But I had questions, so many that they woke me at 3 in the morning, cold sweat gluing my t-shirt to my back. I had been other people before. Interpol agent, organized crime specialist, the woman who interrogated traffickers and negotiated with terrorists without blinking, but that Sophia had died the same day my brother disappeared. The woman I was now existed somewhere between revenge and desperation, serving Belvedere to men who might know what had happened to Mikhail. My brother, Mikhail Petrov, 26 years old, too idealistic for his own good, an undercover agent who believed one person could change the world. The last time I spoke to him, his voice was tense, rushed. I'm close, Soph. Very close. Big operation. Human trafficking. Miami port. Then silence. 3 years of silence that corroded me like acid. All the clues led there. To the Tsar. To the port. To the Russians. I was drying a glass when the temperature of the club changed. It wasn't dramatic. Nobody screamed or ran, but conversations died mid-sentence. Laughter strangled itself. Bodies turned, then bowed slightly, like sunflowers recognizing the sun, or perhaps recognizing something more dangerous. He entered as if space reorganized itself around him. Dmitry Volkov had 6 feet 3 inches of inevitable presence, broad shoulders under a perfectly cut black suit, but it was the way he moved that captured attention. Predator. Each step measured, economical, as if violence were something he kept in his pocket and could draw at any moment. Dark hair combed back revealed a face of hard lines, square jaw with a thin scar crossing the left side, a nose that had been broken and fixed, ice blue eyes that swept the environment with military efficiency, but it was the hands that fascinated me. Russian tattoos climbed up his fingers and disappeared under his sleeves. I knew those symbols. Each one represented something in the Bratva world: death, conquest, prison time, loyalty bought with blood. He approached the bar, and the man sitting on the stool in front of me practically flew to get out of the way. "Reserved bottle," he said in Russian, voice deep as distant thunder. He didn't even look at me, as if I were part of the furniture. I continued drying the glass, slowly, deliberately. He waited 5 seconds, then 10. I could feel tension growing, air becoming heavier. Men around stopped pretending they weren't paying attention. "Are you deaf or just stupid?" he asked, still in Russian, each word sharp as broken glass. My heart accelerated, but I kept my face neutral. This was a test. Everything was a test in that world. I placed the glass on the counter with exaggerated care, turned to face him, and responded in the same language, the Moscow accent my mother had taught me perfectly preserved. Neither deaf nor stupid, just busy serving customers who use words like please and thank you. But I can make an exception for men who think the world revolves around them. The silence that followed was absolute. I saw the exact moment surprise cross those blue eyes, then anger, quick and hot, then something more dangerous, interest, the kind of interest that made prey understand they had just caught the attention of the wrong predator. He leaned over the bar, invading my space, smell of expensive wood and something metallic, gunpowder perhaps, or old blood. "Do you know who I am?" His voice had dropped an octave, brushing somewhere between threat and curiosity. "I do," I said, holding his gaze without blinking. "Dmitry Volkov, Pakan of the Volkov Bratva, owner of this club and half the port, the man everyone here fears." I leaned in too until our faces were inches apart. I could feel heat radiating from him, see small golden flecks in his blue eyes. But here, behind this bar, I'm the one who serves the drinks. And I don't serve rude men, no matter how many tattoos they have. For a second, I thought he was going to kill me right there. I saw the muscles in his jaw contract, hands close into fists on the mahogany. Everyone in the club was frozen, waiting for the explosion. Then he did something unexpected. He smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. It was the kind of smile sharks must give before biting. But there was something more there. Recognition, perhaps. As if he had found something he didn't expect and didn't quite know what to do with it. "Interesting," he murmured, more to himself than to me. Then, in formal, almost antiquated Russian, "Please, miss, could you serve me the bottle of Russo Baltique that I keep reserved?" I would be extremely grateful. Sarcasm dripped from every word, but he had played the game. I retrieved the bottle from the locked compartment, $40,000 vodka in crystal and gold. I placed it in front of him with a shot glass. Extremely grateful, I repeated, returning the sarcasm. See? It wasn't that difficult. He poured the shot, drank it in one gulp, and placed a black business card on the counter. Just a name in silver letters, Dmitry Volkov, and a phone number. You have either courage or a death sentence, he said, returning to casual Russian. I haven't decided which yet. Then he turned and left, and the entire club seemed to exhale at once. I picked up the card with fingers that trembled imperceptibly. My boss, Irina, a 50-year-old Russian woman with platinum hair and a past she never discussed, appeared at my side. Are you crazy or suicidal? She hissed in Russian. I haven't decided yet, I said, echoing his words. But as I watched Dmitry Volkov disappear through the door, men bowing in his path like grass under wind, I felt something I hadn't felt in 3 years. Not hope, exactly, but possibility. I had come to Miami looking for answers about my brother. I didn't expect to find them in the eyes of the most dangerous man on the East Coast. I didn't expect those answers to come wrapped in a $3,000 suit and tattoos that told stories of violence. I tucked the card into my jeans pocket. My hand brushed against Mikhail's photo that I always carried. Younger brother smiling, arm around my shoulders, taken 6 months before he disappeared, before everything fell apart. Sorry, Misha, I whispered in Russian, so low that even I barely heard it. But I'm going to have to dance with the devil to find you. Irina shook her head, making the sign of the Orthodox cross. That man is death, Sophia. Beautiful death in expensive packaging, but death nonetheless. I know, I said, cleaning the counter where Dmitry had rested his hands. I could still feel residual heat on the mahogany. But what Irina didn't know, what nobody there knew, was that I was death too. Just a different kind. I had been trained to infiltrate, manipulate, destroy organizations from within. I had spent 5 years at Interpol doing exactly that. And if I had known what that night would unleash, I would have run. Taken the first flight to anywhere that wasn't Miami. Changed my name, my life, my destiny. But that would be a lie. Because the truth I barely admitted to myself as I tucked that card away like it was a bomb about to explode, was that I never run. I never ran. And I wouldn't start now. Not when I finally had a real lead. Not when I finally had a path into the world that had swallowed my brother. Not when those ice blue eyes had looked at me as if I were a puzzle he wanted to solve. Or destroy. Or maybe both. The rest of the night passed in a fog of served drinks and conversations I pretended not to understand. But my mind was elsewhere. It was 3 years in the past, listening to Mikhail's last call. It was in the future, imagining what would happen when I called that number. It was in that suspended moment between who I had been and who I needed to become. When I closed the club at 4 a.m, Miami was quiet in the way it only gets in those dead hours between night and dawn. Hot, humid air stuck to skin, smell of salt from the ocean mixed with garbage and car exhaust. I held the card under a streetlight. Dmitry Volkov. Monster. Criminal. Murderer, probably. And my only chance to find my brother. I tucked the card away again and started walking to my apartment. High heels echoed on the empty sidewalk. Somewhere, a siren wailed. Somewhere, someone screamed. Miami never really slept. Neither did I. Not for 3 years. And something told me that after that night, after looking into Dmitry Volkov's eyes and seeing recognition reflected back, I would never sleep peacefully again. But that was okay. I hadn't come to Miami for peace. I had come for truth. And truth, I was learning, always had a price. I just hoped I could afford to pay it. I didn't call Dmitry Volkov. 3 days passed, and the card burned a hole in my pocket like a live ember. But I had learned, in my years at Interpol, that power sometimes lies in making the other person come to you. In not seeming desperate, even when desperation corrodes you from within. So I continued my routine. Woke at 6, ran 10 kilometers along the waterfront, trained Krav Maga at the small gym that few Russians frequented. Worked at the Tsar from 10 at night to 4 in the morning. Slept in restless fragments, dreaming of Mikhail, waking with the taste of failure in my mouth. It was at the gym that he found me. I was on the treadmill, headphones blocking out the world, sweat running down the back of my tank top. Electronic music pulsed in my ears, rhythm matching my heartbeat. Running had always been my meditation, the only moment when my mind became quiet enough for me to breathe. Then the treadmill shut off. I stumbled, yanked out the headphones, spun ready to fight whoever had touched the controls. Dmitry Volkov was there, hand still on the emergency button, wearing black sweatpants and a tank top that revealed arms covered in tattoos. Defined muscles glistened with sweat, as if he had just finished his own workout. His hair was messy, falling over his forehead. Without the suit, without the armor of civilization, he seemed even more dangerous, primitive, as if the thin veneer of humanity had been scraped away, revealing something older underneath. "You didn't call," he said in Russian. It wasn't a question. It was an accusation. My heart was racing, but it wasn't just from the run. I could feel the stares of others in the gym. Few at that hour of the morning, but enough. All pretending not to pay attention, while paying absolute attention. "I didn't know it was mandatory," I replied, grabbing a towel and wiping my face. Casual gesture. As if dangerous men interrupted my workout every day. He smiled that shark smile again. "It's not. But usually when I give someone my number, that person has the good sense to use it. Maybe I don't have good sense." "That," he said, eyes traveling over my body in a way that wasn't exactly sexual but evaluative, as if cataloging weak points, "is becoming obvious." He nodded toward the exit. "Coffee now. I'm in the middle of my workout." "Not anymore." It wasn't an invitation. It was an order, and something in the way he said it, in the absolute certainty that I would obey, made anger flare up my spine. What if I say no? Dmitri leaned in, invading my personal space again. His smell was stronger now. Clean sweat, something woody, and that metallic touch I was beginning to associate with him. He spoke low, just for me. "Then I'll have to assume you're in Miami for reasons other than serving drinks, and I'll have to investigate those reasons. And Sophia." He said my name as if tasting it, testing its weight on his tongue. "You really don't want me to investigate you." Ice ran through my veins. He knew, or suspected, or was bluffing. I had seen dangerous men before, interrogated traffickers, negotiated with terrorists, looked into the eyes of killers without blinking. But Dmitry Volkov was different. He didn't need to threaten. His presence was the threat. His existence was danger condensed into human form. "Coffee," I said, voice firm despite the fear crawling up my throat. "Give me 15 minutes to shower." 10, he said, and walked away. The cafe was small, hidden on a side street in Little Havana that tourists never found. Walls covered with faded photos of the Soviet Union. Smell of black bread and spices that reminded me of my mother's kitchen. Sound of a samovar boiling somewhere in the back. Dmitri ordered Zavarka for both of us. Traditional Russian tea, strong and dark, served in glasses with ornate metal holders. "Your mother was Russian," he said when we sat in an isolated corner. It wasn't a question. "From Moscow," I confirmed, holding the hot glass between my hands. Steam rose, warming my face. "She met my father when he was studying there. American engineer, romantic fool. She left everything to come with him to the United States. Did she regret it?" I thought of my mother, of the way she looked out the window sometimes, eyes lost in something only she could see, of the way she cooked Russian dishes with ferocity, as if she could bring her homeland back through food, of the way she had crumbled when Mikhail disappeared, as if the last connection to meaning had been severed. "Every day," I said, "but she loved my father, loved us." Sometimes love isn't enough to kill homesickness. Dmitri took a sip of tea, eyes never leaving my face. "You speak Russian perfectly. No American accent. Your mother taught you well. She insisted, said we needed to know our roots. That language was the soul of a people." "Wise," he said. Then changing the subject with calculated brutality. "Sophia Petrov, 28 years old, born in Boston, graduated in international relations from Georgetown, worked for a private security company for 5 years, disappeared for 2 years, reappeared in Miami 3 months ago, working as a bartender in a club that pays minimum wage." Each word fell like a stone in still water, creating waves that expanded, disturbing everything. My cover was blown. 3 months of careful planning destroyed because I couldn't keep my mouth shut for one night. "Impressive," I said, voice calmer than I felt. "Do you do background checks on all bartenders or just the ones who insult you? Just the ones who speak fluent Russian, have obvious military training, and lie about why they're in Miami?" He placed a photo on the table between us. It was me, leaving my apartment. But I wasn't alone in the photo. There was a man following me, distant, trying to be discreet, but clearly tracking me. "Bratva Morozov," Dmitri said, tapping his finger on the image of the man. "Viktor Morozov is my rival. Controls half the port I don't control. Traffics drugs, weapons, people. Has no code, no limits. He's an animal." He leaned in. "And he's interested in you, which makes me very interested in why." My brain worked fast, calculating options. Lie? He already knew too much. Run? To where? Truth? Which version of it? "Maybe," I said slowly. "I'm in Miami for the same reasons as anyone. Work, Fresh start. Running from something. Nobody runs to Miami, Dimitri said. Miami is where you come when you want to be found, when you want to lose yourself in a place full of other lost people, when you're looking for something. His eyes pierced mine. What are you looking for, Sophia? The question hung between us like smoke. I could lie, should lie, but something in the way he looked at me, in the way he had shared information about Morozov, as if offering me something, made me risk a fragment of truth. My brother, I said. Mikhail, he disappeared 3 years ago. Last lead pointed to Miami, to the port, to... I hesitated, then plunged, to the Russians. Something changed in Dimitri's face. It didn't soften exactly, but something behind the blue eyes moved. Recognition, perhaps, or memory. Brother, he repeated, voice lower. I had a sister, Katya. Had? Past tense. What happened? I asked, though part of me didn't want to know, didn't want to humanize him. It was easier when he was just a target. Just a name in a file. Morozov, he said, and the name came out like poison. She was 19, studied ballet, dreamed of dancing at the Bolshoi. He grabbed her leaving class, sent her finger in the mail with demands. His hand gripped the tea glass so hard I thought it would break. I gave up territory, gave up businesses, gave up everything he asked for, and he killed her anyway. Because he could. Because in our world, cruelty is the currency of power. For the first time since I'd met him, Dmitri Volkov's voice broke. Just for a second, just enough for me to see the man behind the monster. My grandmother used to say that vodka warms the body but tea warms the soul, he continued, looking at the glass as if it contained answers. She was wrong. Nothing warms the souls of men like me. We're born in the cold and die in the cold. I didn't know what to say. There were no adequate words, so I did what my instinct told me. I extended my hand and covered his on the table. He looked at our hands, mine, small and pale, his, large and marked with ink and scars. The contrast was stark. I'm sorry, I said in Russian, for your sister, for everything this world took from you. Don't be sorry, he said, but didn't pull his hand away. I chose this world. Katya didn't. Your brother didn't. You didn't. But I was born into it. My father, my grandfather, great-grandfather, all Volkovs, all stained with blood that never comes out. We stayed like that for a moment that seemed suspended outside of time. Two strangers connected by loss, by anger, by an impossible search for justice in a world that didn't know the word. Then his phone rang. The transformation was instantaneous. Dmitri released my hand, grabbed his cell phone, looked at the screen. Everything about him changed. Vulnerability evaporated. The predator returned. He answered, listened, said 3 words in Russian I couldn't catch, and hung up. When he looked at me again, there was no trace of the man who had shared pain about his lost sister. We need to leave, he said, already standing. Now. What happened? He threw money on the table, grabbed my arm with a firmness that didn't hurt, but didn't allow argument. Morozov knows about you, he said, guiding me to the door. And he's coming. Dmitri took me to his penthouse. I had no choice. He practically dragged me from the cafe to a black SUV with tinted windows waiting on the street, engine running, driver who asked no questions. We crossed Miami in tense silence, Dmitri making quick calls in Russian, voice sharp as a razor, giving orders I couldn't fully decipher, but that sounded like preparation for war. The building was in Brickell, all glass and steel, the kind of place where apartments cost millions and doormen wore white gloves. We went straight up to the penthouse. Private elevator, biometric recognition, layered security that would make a government agency envious. The apartment was exactly what I expected, and nothing I imagined at the same time. Minimalist, modern, Italian marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows with views of Biscayne Bay, furniture that probably cost more than a car. But there were personal touches that surprised me. Books in Russian stacked on a side table. Framed photo of an older woman, probably the grandmother he had mentioned. Small Orthodox icon in a discreet corner. You live here? I asked, still processing the speed with which my life had turned upside down. Sometimes, he said, locking the door with 3 different locks. I have other places, more secure, but this one has the best view. He went to the bar, poured 2 glasses of vodka. Russo Baltique, the same one he had ordered at the Tsar, $40,000 a bottle, and he served it as if it were water. Drink, he ordered, pushing the glass toward me. You're going to need it. I drank. The liquid burned going down, but it was a clean burn, smooth. Nothing like the cheap vodka I served to most customers. Dmitri stood at the window, looking at the city below. Sunset light painted the sky orange and red. beautiful and violent at the same time, like everything in Miami. Morozov didn't follow you by accident, he said without turning. He knows you talked to me, knows I became interested in you, and in his world, that makes you a target. A tool. A way to get to me. I can take care of myself. He laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. You don't understand. Morozov isn't like other criminals you may have encountered. He has no rules, no limits. He tortures for fun, kills on principle, and he has a particular obsession with me. Dmitri finally turned, and the expression on his face made me swallow hard. He's going to get you, Sophia. He's going to hurt you in ways you can't imagine, and he's going to make me watch. Because that's how he operates. He doesn't just kill, he destroys. Silence weighed between us. I could hear my own heart beating, could feel the weight of the gun I always carried hidden at my back, under my blouse, could feel years of training telling me to assess exits, calculate chances, plan escape. But I didn't run. Instead, I placed the empty glass on the table and looked Dmitry Volkov in the eyes. I didn't come to Miami to stay safe, I said. I came for answers. I came for my brother. And if Morozov is involved, if he knows something, then maybe being his target isn't the worst thing that could happen. You're crazy. Probably, I admitted. But I've been crazy for 3 years, since the last time I heard Mikhail's voice, since he disappeared investigating a human trafficking operation at the Miami port. I took a step toward Dmitri, then another, until we were inches apart. You said you investigated my past. So you know I worked for a security company, but it wasn't just any company, was it? It was a cover. I was an Interpol agent, Dmitri, specialized in organized crime. I spent 5 years infiltrating organizations, building cases, destroying empires from within. I saw recognition in his eyes. He already knew. Of course he knew. And you know what else? My voice was trembling now, not from fear, but from anger I had held for so long. Mikhail was an agent too. FBI. He was undercover in an operation against human trafficking. The last lead I had pointed to the port, to the Russians, to... I stopped, swallowed hard, forced the words out. To you. Dmitri didn't move, didn't deny, just looked at me with those blue eyes impossible to read. All the routes passed through Volkov territory, I continued. All the contacts had connections to your organization. So I left everything, pretended I had given up, built a new identity, came back as a bartender, because I needed to get into your world. I needed to find out what happened to my brother. Tears burned my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. Not yet. Mikhail was everything I wasn't. Idealistic where I was pragmatic. Brave where I was calculating. He believed one person could change the world. That justice meant something. That it was worth risking everything to do the right thing. My voice broke. 3 years without knowing if he's alive, dead, or something worse. 3 years waking up waiting for a call that never comes. 3 years of silence that corrodes me like acid. And all the leads pointed to Miami, to the port, to your businesses. I poked my finger into his chest, each word punctuated by touch. So tell me, Dmitry Volkov, tell me what happened to my brother. Tell me if you killed him, if you sold him, if you know where he is. Before I continue, I need to take a pause. If this story is resonating with you, if you want to know how all of this ends, please subscribe to the channel. Leave your like and tell me in the comments. Would you trust someone like Dmitri? Your opinion matters to me. Now, let me continue telling you what happened that afternoon. Dmitri didn't respond immediately. He just looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something that looked like genuine guilt cross his face. Then he stepped away, went to the window again, ran his hand through his hair. A gesture so human, so vulnerable, that it completely disarmed me. I don't traffic people, he said finally, voice low but firm. I never have. It's a line I've never crossed. After what happened with Katya, after seeing what Morozov does, I swore I would never be part of that. He turned, and there was raw pain in his eyes. But I did business with those who do, laundered their money, protected their routes, provided false documents. In my world, you don't choose allies by morality. You choose by survival, by power, by necessity. That's not an excuse, I said, but my voice came out weaker than I intended. It's not, he agreed. I'm not making excuses. I'm explaining. The Bratva isn't a gang, Sophia. It's a structure, hierarchy, a system that's existed for centuries. You're born into it or pulled inside. I was born. My father, my grandfather, great-grandfather, all Volkovs, all stained with blood that never comes out, no matter how much you wash your hands. He picked up the vodka bottle again, poured for both of us. This time we drank together, in silence loaded with unspoken things. 3 years ago, Dmitri began, voice careful, there was a big operation at the port, a container with 50 women, Romanian, Ukrainian, Russian, promised work in restaurants, hotels. Reality was very different. My stomach turned. I knew these stories, had read reports, seen photos, interviewed survivors. The operation was Morozov's, he continued, but it used my infrastructure, my contacts at the port, my documents. I received a percentage, didn't ask for details, didn't want to know. Coward, I whispered. Yes, he said simply. I am. Because knowing would mean having to choose, and choosing would mean war, and war would mean death, of my men, of my people, maybe mine. He looked at me, and there was something desperate in his expression. But there was a problem that night. Someone infiltrated. Someone who knew too much, who had evidence, who was about to bring down the entire operation. My heart stopped. Mikhail, I whispered. Dmitri nodded slowly. I didn't know his name at the time, didn't know he was a federal agent, only found out later when you showed up, when I investigated you and saw the surname, Petrov, same surname as the man my men captured that night. The world was spinning. I held onto the table to keep from falling. What did you do to him? My voice was barely a whisper. What did you do to my brother? Dmitri approached, took my shoulders with gentle hands, so gentle it was almost worse than violence. I transferred him to Morozov, he said, and each word was a knife. As part of a territorial negotiation, I thought I was saving his life. My men wanted to kill him right there. He had killed 2 of ours, but he reminded me of someone, of Katya. The stubbornness, the refusal to bow even under torture. A tear rolled down my face, then another. So I made a deal. Territory in exchange for the prisoner. I thought Morozov would use him for information and then release him. I didn't know what he would do. Dmitri wiped the tear from my face with his thumb, calloused hand, surprisingly gentle touch, like he had touched the tea glass, like he touched everything he didn't want to break. I'm sorry, he said, and his voice was broken too. I'm sorry about your brother, about you, about all the choices I made that led to this moment. I should hate him, should grab my gun and shoot him right there, should scream, cry, destroy everything around me. But all I felt was emptiness, an emptiness so deep it felt like it would swallow me. Is he alive? I asked. Last hope, last prayer. I don't know, Dmitri admitted. But Morozov knows, and tomorrow I'm going to make him tell me. I looked up, met his eyes. How? I'll offer a trade, he said. Information he wants, territory he covets. Me, whatever it takes. He'll kill you. Probably, Dmitri said, and there was acceptance in his voice. But it's what I owe. To you, to your brother, to my sister, to all the people I failed by choosing survival instead of doing what's right. We stood like that, looking at each other, 2 sides of the same coin. He built by the criminal world. I destroyed by it. And there, in that penthouse that smelled of expensive vodka and regret, I understood that hating him would be easier than what I actually felt. Because Dmitri Volkov was a monster. But monsters also bled. And sometimes, just sometimes, they tried to make amends, even knowing it was too late. I didn't sleep that night. Dmitri offered me the guest room, but I refused. Said I needed to go to my apartment, get clothes, process everything I had discovered. He didn't like it, but didn't argue. Just put 2 of his men to follow me. Protection, he said. Prison, I thought. But when I arrived at my building in Wynwood, I understood that protection might be exactly what I needed. The door to my apartment was broken down, not subtly, not with professional break-in technique, but brutally, violently, as if someone had kicked until the wood gave way. The lock hung, screws ripped from the frame. The door swayed slightly in the air current from the hallway. Dmitri's 2 men, Alexei and Sergei, I had learned their names on the way, immediately drew weapons. Alexei pushed me back, his body blocking mine. Sergei entered first, weapon raised, movements precise from military training. Clear, he called in Russian after sweeping the apartment, but it wasn't clear. Nothing was clear. My apartment had been violated, not just ransacked, desecrated, clothes ripped from drawers and scattered across the floor, underwear torn, thrown over furniture like obscene flags, photos of my family, my mother, my father, Mikhail, ripped from frames and torn into pieces that covered the bed like macabre confetti, books thrown from shelves, dishes broken in the kitchen, bathroom mirror cracked as if someone had punched it, and on the wall above my bed, written in something red, that I prayed was paint but smelled metallically like blood. Ona zaplatit za twoi griechi. She will pay for your sins. Photos were scattered on the sheet, photos of me and Dmitri, leaving the cafe, entering his building. Some were from angles that suggested professional surveillance. Others were clearly taken up close, as if whoever took them was meters away. The last photo made me stop breathing. It was of Dmitri and me at the cafe. The moment when he had wiped the tear from my face. The moment of intimacy I thought had been private. But there was no privacy in his world. In their world. In the world that was now mine too. Suka! Alexei cursed, looking around. Son of a bitch. Sergei was already on the phone, speaking fast in Russian. Calling Dmitri, I realized. Reporting. I just stood there, in the middle of the destruction, trying to process, trying to feel something beyond the cold numbness that had settled in my bones. They had been in my space, touched my things, torn photos of my brother, left a clear message. Nothing of yours is safe. We need to leave, Alexei said, hand on my elbow. Now. Pakan is coming, but it's not safe to stay. I shook my head, forcing focus. Training taking control. Assess. Adapt. Survive. 2 minutes, I said. I need to grab some things. I went to the closet, grabbed the emergency backpack I always kept prepared. Interpol habit I never abandoned. Clothes, fake documents, money, extra weapon. Essentials for disappearing if necessary. But I wasn't going to disappear. Not now. Not when I was so close. Dmitri arrived 15 minutes later, with 4 more men. Black SUV blocking the street, not caring about traffic laws or the attention it attracted. He entered the apartment like a storm, eyes sweeping the destruction, jaw clenched so tight the muscles jumped. When he saw the message on the wall, when he saw the photos on the bed, something in him changed. The fury was palpable. Not hot and explosive, but cold and lethal. The kind of anger that doesn't scream, that plans, that kills. Morozov, he said, the name coming out like a death sentence. He picked up his phone, made 3 quick calls, short, cutting orders. Russian too fast for me to catch everything, but I picked up keywords. Find, capture, bring. Then he turned to me, crossed the apartment in 3 long strides, took my face between his hands, forced my eyes to meet his. Are you okay? It wasn't a casual question. It was a demand, as if my answer mattered more than anything else in the world. I am, I said, though I didn't know if it was true. Lie, he said, thumb tracing the line of my cheek. But that's okay. You don't need to be okay. You just need to be alive. He released my face, turned to Alexei. Take her to the warehouse. Gather everyone. Emergency meeting in 1 hour. The warehouse? I asked. Dmitri looked at me, and there was something dark in his expression. Something that reminded me that, however human he seemed sometimes, he was a predator, built for violence. We have someone who's going to give us answers, he said. A Morozov informant we captured yesterday. I was waiting for the right moment to interrogate. I think the moment has arrived. The warehouse was at the port. Of course it was. Everything always came back to the port. Corrugated metal structure, isolated among containers stacked like giant Lego blocks. Smell of salt, motor oil, and something metallic I recognized immediately. Blood. Inside, the lighting was industrial. Fluorescent lamps buzzing, casting harsh light on stained concrete. There was a man tied to a metal chair in the center of the empty space. Swollen face, split lip, torn shirt revealing a torso covered in bruises. They had already started without Dmitri. 6 men were present. Dmitri's lieutenants, I realized. The ones who made decisions. The ones who kept the empire running. Alexei, the right-hand man. 40s, scar crossing his eyebrow. Eyes that had seen too much. Victor, the accountant. Thin, glasses, professor-like appearance. But I knew men like him were more dangerous than muscle. They controlled money. And money was real power. Sergei, the enforcer. Young, early 20s, but with an emptiness in his eyes that came from killing without questioning. 3 others I didn't know. All Russian. All with tattoos that told stories of prison, violence, loyalty bought with blood. Dmitri entered, and everyone turned. Automatic deference. Fear and respect mixed in equal parts. Has he talked? Dmitri asked, removing his jacket, rolling up his shirt sleeves. Methodical movements, almost ritualistic. Not much, Alexei said, but he will. Dmitri approached the tied man, crouched in front of him, eyes at the same level. Yuri, he said, voice almost gentle. How long have you worked for Morozov? The man, Yuri, spat blood. Idi nahui. Go fuck yourself. Dmitri sighed, not with anger, with something that seemed almost like sadness. I don't want to hurt you more, he said, but I need information. About Morozov's plans, about the woman. He gestured in my direction. About what he knows, what he wants. He wants you dead, Yuri said, laughing despite the pain. Wants your empire, wants everything you built, and he'll get it. Maybe, Dmitri said, but not today. What happened next was efficient, brutal, without excess, but without mercy. I had seen interrogations before, had conducted some, but there was always protocol, limits, rules. Here there was none of that, just questions and pain until answers came. I stood in the corner watching. Part of me, the part that had been a law enforcement agent, was horrified, screamed that this was wrong, illegal, inhumane. But another part, the part that had lost a brother to these men, the part that had seen a violated apartment and a message written in blood, felt something dangerously close to satisfaction. After 20 minutes, Yuri broke. Morozov is planning a kidnapping, he gasped, voice broken. Public. Wants to grab her in an open place. Make a statement. Show that Volkov can't even protect his own woman. Woman? Dmitri repeated. Everyone knows, Yuri said, laughing weakly. You've never protected anyone before, never cared. But with her, he looked at me. With her, it's different. Morozov saw it. Everyone saw it. And weakness is opportunity. Dmitri became very quiet, the kind of quiet that precedes violence. When? He asked. I don't know. Soon. Days. He's gathering men. Planning. Dmitri stood up, turned to his lieutenants. Double security. No one enters or leaves without my authorization. Track all of Morozov's movements. I want to know where he is every minute. And her? Victor asked, pushing up his glasses. What do we do with the woman? The way he said it, the woman, as if I were a problem to be solved, made anger flare up my spine. She stays with me, Dmitri said. That's weakness, another lieutenant said. Not Alexei, one of the ones I didn't know. Older, gray hair, deep scars on his face. Morozov is right. You've never cared about anyone, never let emotion interfere with business. But now what? Dmitri asked, voice dangerously low. Now you're compromised. And a compromised man is a dead man. Are you suggesting I eliminate her? Dmitri asked. That I kill her to prove I'm not weak? Silence. Because if you are, Dmitri continued, crossing the space between them, you can say it clearly. I want to hear you suggest that I kill an innocent woman to satisfy your definition of strength. The lieutenant didn't respond, but he didn't back down either. Dmitri moved so fast I almost missed it. 1 second he was meters away. The next, his hand was on the lieutenant's throat, lifting him from the chair, pushing him against the metal wall. The violence was so casual, so natural, that the others didn't even move, as if it were a common occurrence, as if it were just Dmitri being Dmitri. The next person who suggests hurting her, Dmitri said, voice calm despite the force he was using, will discover exactly how compromised I am. With violence, with vengeance, with making an example. He released the man, who fell to the floor coughing. She stays, Dmitri said, looking around the room. Under my protection, under the protection of the Volkov Bratva. Does anyone else have objections? No one spoke. Good, he said. Meeting adjourned, get back to work. The men left quickly, leaving only Dmitri, me, and Yuri still tied to the chair. Dmitri turned to me. Sorry, he said. For this. For everything. Don't apologize, I said, surprising myself. Just tell me what we're going to do now. He looked at me for a long moment, then smiled. Not the shark smile, but something real. Something that made me forget, for a second, that we would both probably die soon. Now, he said, we're going to make Morozov regret touching you. The proposal came that same night. We were back at the penthouse. Dmitri had insisted I stay there, where security was stronger, where he could protect me. I didn't argue. My apartment was a crime scene now anyway, a place contaminated by violation and threats. He took me to his office, a room I hadn't seen before, hidden behind a massive oak door, walls lined with books in Russian and English, huge dark mahogany desk, maps of Miami on the walls, marked with colored pins that I knew represented territories, businesses, zones of influence, photos of men, some with red X's over their faces. Dead, I realized. Eliminated. 6 men were already waiting, the lieutenants, including the one Dmitri had strangled earlier, who now avoided looking directly at him. We have a problem, Dmitri began, pouring vodka for everyone. Ritual, I was learning. Serious business always started with vodka. Morozov knows about Sophia, knows she matters to me. And in our world, that makes her a target. We can hide her, Alexei suggested. Send her out of the country. Russia, maybe. We have people there. No, I said before Dmitri could respond. I'm not running. Victor adjusted his glasses, studying me like a mathematical problem. Then we need to make her untouchable. In our world, there's only one way to do that. Marriage, Dmitri said, and the word fell like a bomb in the silence. I laughed. Couldn't help it. It was absurd. Ridiculous. I had known this man for less than a week. You're joking, I said. No, Dmitri responded, eyes fixed on mine. In our world, a wife is sacred. Attacking a Pakan's wife isn't just an insult. It's a declaration of total war. A war Morozov doesn't have the resources to fight. He controls half the port. I control the other half, plus operations in 3 states. He has 50 men. I have 200. But he has cruelty, Sergei added. Has reputation. Men follow him out of fear. And men follow me out of respect, Dmitri said. Out of loyalty. Because they know I protect my own. If I marry Sophia, she becomes mine. And no one touches what's mine. I looked around the room. All the men were watching me, evaluating, calculating if I was worth the war that could come. And if I say no? I asked. Then I'll protect you anyway, Dmitri said. But it will be harder, more dangerous, for you and for my men. So it's not really a choice, I said, anger growing. It's an ultimatum. It's survival, he corrected. Yours and mine. I stood up, walked to the window. Miami glittered below. City of lights and shadows, of dreams and nightmares. I had come here looking for my brother, had come for answers, and now I was being offered marriage to the man who had sold Mikhail to a monster. But Dmitri had also admitted guilt, had promised to make amends, had protected me when he could have eliminated me, and part of me, a small and frightening part I didn't want to examine too closely, wanted to say yes for reasons that had nothing to do with security. How long? I asked, still looking at the city. 48 hours, Dmitri said. It needs to be quick, public enough for Morozov to know, private enough for us to control security. I turned. And after? When Morozov is eliminated? When I find my brother? What happens to this marriage? Dmitri approached, stopped inches from me, close enough for me to feel his warmth, smell of wood and metal. I don't know, he admitted, but I promise you'll always have a choice, always have an exit. This isn't a prison, Sophia. It's protection. Protection looks a lot like prison sometimes, I said. I know, he replied. Believe me, I know. Silence stretched between us. I could hear his breathing, could see the pulse beating in his neck, could feel the weight of the decision crushing my shoulders. Okay, I said finally. Let's do this. 48 hours later, I was in an expensive boutique in Coral Gables, being prepared for a wedding that felt more like a funeral. Galina, wife of one of the lieutenants, had been assigned to help me. Woman in her 50s, dark hair pulled in an elegant bun, eyes that had seen much but still maintained some kindness. You didn't choose this life, she said in Russian while adjusting the veil in my hair. It wasn't a question. No, I admitted. Neither did I, she said, skilled fingers working. I met Alexei when I was 19. He was a soldier in the Bratva. I was a waitress. He courted me for 6 months. Flowers, dinners, poetry. I thought I had found a prince. She laughed, but the sound was bitter. I discovered the truth on the wedding night. Blood on his hands. Literally. He had killed a man hours before coming to our room. Why did you stay? I asked. Galina looked at me through the mirror. Because in our world, you don't leave. Not really. And because, despite everything, despite the blood and lies and nights awake wondering if he would come back alive, I love him. Love isn't always a rational choice, Devochka. Sometimes it just is what it is. She finished with the veil, took a step back. Done. Look. I turned to the full-length mirror. The dress was traditional Russian, white with intricate red embroidery on the sleeves and hem. Symbolism I knew. White for purity, red for blood, for sacrifice, for love that cost everything. I looked like a bride, looked like a woman about to promise her life to someone, looked like a lie. But lies, I was learning, were sometimes the only way to survive. The ceremony was in a small Russian Orthodox church in Little Havana, private, guarded. 50 of Dmitri's men outside, armed, vigilant. Inside, incense burned, sweet and heavy smoke filling the air. Golden icons gleamed in candlelight. The priest, an old man with a long white beard, chanted in Old Slavonic. Words I didn't fully understand, but that carried the weight of centuries. Dmitri was at the altar, waiting. Perfectly tailored black suit, hair slicked back. For the first time since I'd met him, he didn't look like a predator. He looked like just a man, nervous even. I walked down the aisle alone. There was no father to give me away, no family, Just me and the impossible choice I had made. When I reached his side, Dmitri took my hand. His fingers trembled, imperceptible to others, but I felt it. Dmitri Volkov, the man who feared nothing, was nervous. That made me feel strangely better. The priest chanted. We repeated vows in Russian, words about love, honor, fidelity, words that seemed too sacred for the situation we were in. Then came the rings. Dmitri slid a gold wedding band on my finger. Simple, elegant, engraved inside with words in Russian, do smerti, until death. I placed a ring on him, hands surprisingly steady. You may kiss the bride, the priest said, finally in modern Russian. Dmitri hesitated, just a second, then leaned in. The kiss was chaste, appropriate for church, his lips touching mine softly, briefly. But the way his fingers tightened on my waist, the way he hesitated before pulling away, said everything words couldn't. Applause echoed. Bratva men celebrating, not for love, but for alliance, for consolidated power, for a message sent. Sofia Petrov was dead. Sofia Volkov had been born. The reception was in an adjacent hall. Tables covered with traditional Russian food, pelmeni, blini, herring, caviar, vodka flowing like water. Russian tradition dictated that guests shout, Gorko, bitter, and the couple should kiss to sweeten the vodka. They shouted dozens of times, and each time Dmitri kissed me, first chaste, then longer, then with something that seemed almost real, until I no longer knew where the act ended and truth began. At midnight, Dmitri took me away, back to the penthouse. Our penthouse now, technically. The tension in the elevator was palpable. We didn't speak. We just stood side by side, watching the numbers climb. When we entered the apartment, reality fell on me like a weight. I was married, to a criminal, to the man who had sold my brother, to the man who had protected me, who had admitted guilt, who looked at me as if I were a puzzle he wanted to solve. I prepared a room for you, Dmitri said, breaking the silence. Separate. I don't assume. He ran his hand through his hair. A gesture of frustration I was beginning to recognize. This doesn't have to be real, he said. It just needs to look real. For my men. For Morozov. And what do you expect from me? I asked. Survival, he said. Yours and mine. I looked at him. At the man who was my husband now. At the monster who bled. Show me the room, I said. He led me down the hallway. Opened a door revealing a beautifully decorated bedroom. King-size bed. Windows with a view of the bay. Everything prepared for me. Good night, Sophia, he said, turning to leave. Dmitri, I called. He stopped. I'm staying in the master bedroom, I said. With you. Surprise crossed his face. You don't have to. I know, I interrupted. But if we're going to do this, we do it right. Morozov has eyes everywhere. Your men, too. If we sleep separately, they'll know. They'll question. It wasn't a complete lie, but it wasn't the complete truth either. The truth was that I didn't want to be alone. Not that night. Not after everything. All right, Dmitri said finally. We went to the master bedroom together. Changed clothes in tense silence. Me in the bathroom, him in the closet. When I came out wearing a t-shirt and shorts, he was already in bed. Pajama pants, no shirt, tattoos covering his chest and arms, each one a story, each one a scar. I lay down on the other side. The bed was large enough for miles between us. Sophia, he said in the darkness. Yes? Thank you. For this. For trusting me. Even when you shouldn't. Who said I trust you? I asked. He laughed. A low, genuine sound. Fair. Silence fell again. I could hear his breathing. Could feel his warmth through the space between us. Dmitri, I said. Yes? Find my brother. Make Morozov pay. And maybe, just maybe, all this will be worth it. I promise, he said. Or die trying. I believed him. And that, more than anything else, scared me. Because believing in Dmitri Volkov meant accepting that monsters could change. And if monsters could change, what did that say about me? I eventually fell asleep. Restless sleep, full of fragmented dreams. And when I woke at 4 a.m, Dmitri wasn't in bed. I found him in the office, hunched over the desk, studying documents. Can't sleep? I asked from the doorway. He looked up, tired eyes, tense shoulders. I found something, he said, about the operation from 3 years ago. About your brother. My heart stopped. What? He pushed a file across the desk. I approached, picked it up with trembling hands. Inside were reports, photos, documents about a human trafficking operation. And there, in the middle of everything, was my brother's name, Mikhail Petrov, undercover agent, cover blown. Last known location, Warehouse 7, Port of Miami, and a handwritten note in Russian, handwriting I didn't recognize. Witness, do not eliminate. Transfer to Morozov. Value, information about federal operations, signed with an initial V. Volkov. Dmitry. He had known all along. I held the file so tightly that my nails pierced the paper. My heart was beating so loud I could hear it in my ears, drowning out any other sound. The office seemed to be spinning, walls closing in. Air became thin, difficult to breathe. Dmitry didn't move. He just watched me, waiting for the explosion he knew would come. You knew, I said, my voice coming out lower than I expected, more deadly. All along, about Mikhail, about what happened to him, about everything. Yes, he said. No excuses, no denials, just naked, brutal truth. Something inside me broke. I had been trained to control emotions. Anger was weakness. Fear was vulnerability. But there, holding proof that the man I had just married had lied, had known, had been responsible, I wanted to break something, preferably him. I threw the file on the desk and launched myself at Dmitry. I didn't think, just acted. Military training taking control, fist aiming for his jaw, elbow seeking his ribs, knee rising toward his groin. He blocked, didn't fight back, just defended, absorbing blows, deflecting the worst ones. Sophia, he began. No, I screamed, punching his chest. Don't speak. Don't you dare speak. I threw everything I had, punches, kicks, elbows. Years of training, years of anger, years of pain concentrated in each movement. He let me exhaust my fury against his body until my muscles screamed, until my fists hurt, until I had nothing left to give. Then I collapsed. Not gracefully, not cinematically, but ugly and completely. Sobs tearing at my throat, tears burning my eyes. Dmitry caught me before I fell, arms around me, holding me while I fell apart. I hate you, I sobbed against his chest. I hate you. I hate you. I know, he said, his voice broken too. I know. We stayed like that. I don't know for how long, him holding me while I cried, while I processed, while the world I knew reorganized itself into something unrecognizable. Eventually the tears dried, the sobs stopped. Only emptiness remained. I pulled away, wiped my face with the back of my hand, forced my eyes to meet his. Tell me everything, I said. Every detail, every lie, every truth, now. Dmitry nodded. He went to the bar, poured 2 glasses of vodka, brought one to me. I drank it in one gulp. The burn was welcome, something to feel besides pain. He sat on the edge of the desk, not in the chair, as if he didn't deserve comfort. Your brother was captured in my operation 3 years ago, he began, voice careful, measured. Warehouse 7, container with 50 women. Morozov's operation, but using my infrastructure, my contacts, my documents. He looked at his hands, at the tattoos that told stories of violence. Mikhail was undercover. I didn't know he was an agent. I thought he was a thief, someone trying to steal the shipment. My men caught him inside the warehouse. He fought, killed 2 of mine before being subdued. Pain pierced my chest. Mikhail fighting, Mikhail killing to survive. Mikhail alone against a dozen armed criminals. When we interrogated him, Dmitry continued, he didn't break, not even under torture. He had training, resistance, refused to give his name, agency, information, just kept repeating that we were monsters, that we would pay for our crimes. Tears burned my eyes again, but I held them back. I was going to kill him, Dmitry admitted, and the words were knives. Should have killed him. It was protocol, witness, threat, but he reminded me of someone. He looked up, met my eyes. Katya, my sister, the stubbornness, the refusal to bow even when everything was lost, the belief that there was something beyond violence and power. His voice broke. I couldn't kill him, so I made a deal with Morozov, territory in exchange for the prisoner. I thought I was saving his life. I thought Morozov would use him for information and then release him or sell him back to the government. He laughed, but the sound was bitter as ashes. I was an idiot, naive. Morozov doesn't release anyone. He breaks, destroys, consumes. What did he do to Mikhail? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. I don't know the details, Dmitry said, but I know Morozov kept him for at least 6 months, extracting information, using it against federal operations. After, he didn't finish. He didn't need to. You think he's dead? I said. It wasn't a question. I thought so, Dmitry corrected. Until you showed up. Until I saw the determination in your eyes. Until I realized you wouldn't have come to Miami, wouldn't have risked everything, if you didn't have reason to believe he was still alive. Hope, small and dangerous, ignited in my chest. Do you think he could be alive? I think Morozov is many things, Dmitri said. Monster, psychopath, sadist. But he's also pragmatic. If your brother had value, if he had information Morozov could use, he would keep him alive. Broken, perhaps, but alive. I sat in the chair, my legs no longer supporting me. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. When you discovered who I was, when you realized the connection, why did you lie? Because I'm a coward, he said simply. Because for the first time in years I felt something besides emptiness, and I was selfish enough to want to keep it, even knowing it was built on lies. He knelt in front of me, hands on the arms of the chair, trapping me without touching me. When I discovered you were his sister, I should have killed you, he said, or sent you away, but I couldn't, because you looked at me as if I were more than a monster, as if there was a possibility of redemption, and I wanted to believe that. Wanted to believe that a man like me could be more than blood and violence. You can't, I said, voice hard. You are exactly what you've always been. Criminal, assassin, man who sells people to monsters and calls it business. I know, he said, but I'm trying to be different. For you, for your brother, for Katya, for all the people I've failed. Trying isn't enough, I said. I know, he repeated, but it's all I have. Silence fell between us, heavy, suffocating. I looked at the man kneeling in front of me, man who was my husband, my enemy, my only chance to find Mikhail. Is Mikhail alive? I asked again, needing to hear, needing to believe. I don't know, Dmitri admitted, but Morozov knows. And tomorrow, I'm going to make him tell me. How? He stood, went to the window. Dawn was beginning to paint the sky pink and gold. New day, new impossible choices. I'm going to offer a trade, he said. Territory, businesses, information he wants about my operations, everything. He's going to kill you, I said, sudden fear tightening my throat. Probably, Dmitri agreed, voice calm, accepting. But it's what I owe. To you, to your brother, to all the wrong choices I've made. That's stupid, I said, standing up. Suicide isn't redemption. It's not suicide, he said, turning to face me. It's justice, finally. No, I said, crossing the room until I was in front of him. No, you're not going to die for me. You're not going to throw your life away out of guilt. Then what do you suggest? He asked. I took a deep breath, made a decision that would change everything. We go together, I said. You and me. We face Morozov together. We get information about Mikhail. And we come out alive, both of us. Sophia, you made me your wife, I interrupted. In your world, that means something, remember? It means I fight by your side. It means your battles are my battles. You could die, he said. I could, I agreed. But at least I died trying to save my brother. Not running, not hiding, but fighting. Dmitri looked at me for a long moment. Then, for the first time since I'd met him, he smiled. Not the shark smile, not the calculated smile, but something real. Something that lit up his eyes and made him look years younger. You're crazy, he said. I learned from the best, I replied. He laughed. Genuine, surprised sound. Then he took my face in his hands, as he had done in the destroyed apartment. But this time, when he leaned in, it wasn't to check if I was okay. It was to kiss me. Not like in the church, not chaste or appropriate, but real, desperate. As if we were going to die tomorrow, and this was the last moment of something resembling happiness. I kissed him back, not because I had forgiven, not because I trusted, but because in the middle of all the lies and violence, there was something true between us, something I didn't know how to name, but that existed anyway. When we separated, we were both breathless. Tomorrow, he said, forehead resting against mine, we're going to make Morozov pay. We're going to find your brother, and we're going to survive. Together. Together, I repeated. And for the first time in 3 years, I believed that maybe, just maybe, there was hope. Even if it was hope built on blood and lies. Even if it was hope that could kill us. It was hope. And sometimes, hope was all that remained. The meeting was set for noon. Neutral territory, Morozov had insisted. Abandoned warehouse at the port. The same one where Mikhail had been captured 3 years ago. The symbolism wasn't coincidence. Morozov wanted it to hurt, and it did. Dmitri spent the morning preparing. Calls to lieutenants, precise orders, contingency plans. 20 men would come with us. Another 50 would be positioned on the perimeter. If something went wrong, if it was a trap, there would be war. A war Miami had never seen. I dressed carefully. Dark jeans, boots, leather jacket that hid the bulletproof vest Dmitri had insisted I wear, gun in the holster on my back, knife strapped to my ankle. Prepared for the violence I knew would come. You don't have to do this, Dmitri said for the 10th time as we descended in the elevator. Yes, I do, I replied for the 10th time. He took my hand, fingers intertwined, gold ring cold against my skin. If something happens, he said, if everything goes wrong, you run. Don't look back. Don't try to save me. Just run. No, I said. Sophia. No, I repeated more firmly. We go in together. We come out together. Or we don't come out. He squeezed my hand. Didn't argue anymore. The warehouse smelled of salt, motor oil, and something metallic that made my stomach turn. Old blood, rust, death. Midday light entered through broken windows, casting golden dust rays over cracked concrete. The place was empty, abandoned, perfect for a massacre. Viktor Morozov was already waiting. He stood in the center of the empty space, surrounded by his men, 20, maybe 25, all armed. All with the empty eyes of those who had killed so many times. It meant nothing anymore. Morozov was everything Dmitri wasn't. Where Dmitri was controlled ice, Morozov was chaotic fire. Shorter, broader, body covered in muscles and scars, face that looked like it had been reconstructed several times, crooked nose, scars crossing his cheeks like a map of violence, and eyes, God, the eyes, empty, completely empty, like looking into an abyss. Volkov, he said in Russian, voice hoarse as if he'd screamed too much or smoked too much. You actually came, and brought your little whore. Dmitri stiffened beside me, but didn't respond to the insult. I came for the information I promised, Dmitri said, voice calm, professional. About port operations, distribution routes, federal contacts, everything you asked for. And in return? Morozov asked, smiling. Yellowed teeth, 1 gold. Information about the American agent you captured 3 years ago? Mikhail Petrov. Where he is. If he's alive. Everything you know. Morozov laughed, sound that echoed through the warehouse like breaking glass. Ah, yes, he said, looking at me. Your little brother, the idealist, the hero. Anger burned in my throat, but I held it back. Couldn't lose control, not now. Is he alive? I asked, voice surprisingly steady. Morozov walked closer. His men moved with him, synchronized formation. Predators circling prey. He was alive, Morozov said, stopping a few meters from us. For 6 months, 6 very productive months. He told me everything. About federal operations, about undercover agents, about investigation routes. He leaned in, as if sharing a secret. He screamed a lot at first, begged, cried, called for you, you know, for Sophia, his sister, said you would come save him. Tears burned my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. But you never came, Morozov continued, casual cruelty in every word. And eventually he stopped screaming, stopped begging, stopped believing there was salvation. Where is he? Dmitri asked, voice dangerously low. Dead, Morozov said, smiling. Dead for 2 years. After I extracted everything he knew, after he had no more value, I personally put a bullet in his head. Quick, merciful even, more than he deserved. Something inside me died, not dramatically, not with screams or collapse, but silently, like glass cracking under pressure. The hope I had carried for 3 years, the belief that Mikhail was alive, waiting to be rescued, died in that warehouse. But I thank you, Volkov, Morozov continued, turning his attention to Dmitri. His information helped me eliminate 3 federal operations, worth every ruble I paid for him. He took another step closer, invading Dmitri's personal space. And now I'm going to do the same with her. How long do you think your wife will last? I bet longer than her brother. She looks stronger, more resilient. Everything happened at once. Dmitri moved before I could process, before anyone could react. He launched himself at Morozov with a fury I didn't know he possessed. Not calculated, not controlled, but pure and absolute. Shots exploded, screams echoed, men from both sides attacking each other. I drew my weapon, training taking control. Assess, aim, shoot. Man on the left fell. Another on the right. Chaos. Absolute chaos. Dmitri and Morozov fought on the ground. Brutal punches, blood flying. 2 animals trying to kill each other. I fought too. 3 men came at me. I shot the first, kicked the second. The third knocked me down, but I stuck the knife in his neck before he could hurt me. Blood. So much blood. smell of gunpowder and death filling the air. I got up, searching for Dmitri through the smoke and chaos. I saw when Morozov got a gun, saw when he pointed it at me, saw when Dmitri realized. Everything slowed down, like in a movie, like in a nightmare. Dmitri screamed my name, threw himself between me and Morozov. The shot echoed like thunder. I saw when the bullet entered, saw Dmitri's expression change from determination to surprise, saw blood begin to stain his white shirt. "No!" I screamed, running to him, but I didn't get there in time. Another shot. This one mine. Morozov fell, perfect hole between his eyes, dead before hitting the ground. But it didn't matter, because Dmitri was falling too. I caught him before he hit the concrete, lowered with him, hands pressing the wound on his chest, warm blood flowing between my fingers. "No, no, no," I repeated like a mantra. "No, you can't. You promised we'd come out together." He looked up, found my eyes, smiled, weak, painful. "I said I owed you this," he whispered, voice weak. "Sorry it wasn't enough." "No," I sobbed. "Don't talk like that. You're going to be fine. You're going to survive. You have to survive." But the blood kept coming. Too much blood. Sirens sounded in the distance. Someone had called the police, or feds, or both. "Sophia," Dmitri said, hand taking mine. Weak, cold. "Listen." "No," I said. "Save your energy. Help is coming." "Listen," he repeated, more urgent. "Morozov lied." "What?" "Your brother," he gasped, each word costing. "Morozov lied. He always lies, always tortures with lies before killing." Hope, impossible and painful, ignited in my chest. "Do you think Mikhail is alive?" "I don't know," Dmitri admitted. "But don't believe Morozov. Don't give up. Promise." "I promise," I said, tears falling on his face. "I promise, but you have to help me find him." He smiled again. "You don't need me. Never did. You're stronger than all of us." His eyes began to close. "No," I screamed, shaking him. Dmitri, no. Stay with me, please." But he was already gone. He died in my arms while sirens approached, died as he had lived, in violence, but for the first time, for something beyond power, for redemption, for me. 6 months later, I was sitting in Dmitri's office, my office now. A will that no one knew existed had left everything to me. Businesses, properties, entire empire. Sofia Volkov, Pakan of the Volkov Bratva. I had changed everything, ended business with human trafficking, cut ties with organizations that exploited the vulnerable, transformed operations into legitimate businesses where possible. Some lieutenants rebelled. They didn't last long. I had learned from the best. I wore Dmitri's ring on a chain around my neck, reminder that monsters could love, and that love could transform monsters. The phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Sofia Volkov. Silence. Then a voice I didn't recognize. Male. Russian accent. "You don't know me, but I knew your brother. Mikhail Petrov." My heart stopped. "Who are you?" "Someone who owes a favor to Dmitri Volkov. He saved me once. Now I pay the debt." "What do you know about my brother?" "Morozov lied," the voice said. "Mikhail Petrov is alive, broken, hidden, but alive." Tears filled my eyes. "Where?" "I'll send the location." "But Sofia Volkov, listen. Your brother is no longer the man you knew. Morozov broke him in ways that can't be fixed. Prepare yourself." "Where?" I repeated, voice firm despite the tears. "You'll receive a message in an hour. Go alone. Trust no one, not even Dmitri's men. There's a traitor among them." The line died. I sat there holding the phone, processing. Mikhail was alive. Alive. After 3 years. After everything. I looked at Dmitri's photo on the desk, taken in a rare moment of peace, smiling, real. "Thank you," I whispered, "for not giving up, for making me not give up." The phone vibrated. Message with coordinates, address in the Everglades, isolated, dangerous. I grabbed my gun, vest, keys, and went, because I had thought my story had ended in that warehouse. But maybe it was just beginning. Maybe there was life after death, hope after despair, family after loss. I drove to the Everglades as the sun set, painting the sky red and gold, colors of blood and fire, colors of ending and beginning. And for the first time in 3 years, I felt something besides pain. I felt possibility. And so my story ends, or perhaps it's just beginning. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. Thank you for not judging me for the choices I made. If you want more stories like this, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Leave in the comments. Do you think Mikhail is really alive? What would you do in my place? Until the next story. Until the